The great hall of Zephyria Prime stretched for miles under a dome of living crystal. Inside, 12 different alien species sat in perfect circles, their forms glowing with soft light. For 3,000 years, they had gathered here to keep peace in the galaxy. Today, that peace was broken. High Chancellor Vexthara rose from her floating throne. Her body looked like moving water mixed with starlight. When she spoke, her voice rang like silver bells across the silent hall. "Fellow beings of the Galactic Council," she began, "a darkness has come to our perfect harmony. The species called humans have broken the sacred laws that have kept our worlds in peace." The other council members shifted in their seats. The Korathi, with their metal bodies and glowing eyes, clicked in agreement. The Luminari, beings made of pure light, pulsed brighter with anger. The bird-like Zerani ruffled their golden feathers. "Tell us what these humans have done," said Warsinger Thelvenner, his crystal form shimmering with barely controlled rage. Vexthara waved her hand, and images appeared in the air above them. The pictures showed 3 beautiful worlds covered in purple grass and silver trees. These were the meditation worlds, places where their people had gone to find inner peace for thousands of years. "The humans have taken our sacred planets," Vexthara said. "They have built their ugly metal cities where our ancestors once found enlightenment. They have destroyed the harmony of ages." The council members made sounds of shock and anger. Some hissed, others clicked, and a few glowed brighter with fury. But the worst was yet to come. When we sent our finest diplomat, Ambassador Zelthara, to speak with them about this crime, Vexthara continued, "They mocked our sacred ways. New images appeared." The council watched in horror as humans gathered around a metal device that produced fire. They were cooking dead animals over the flames. Loud, harsh sounds filled the air. The humans called it music, but to the aliens it sounded like screaming metal. They invited our ambassador to participate in this barbaric ritual, Vexthara said. They offered him burned flesh to eat. When he tried to explain our peaceful ways, they laughed at him. The worst image came last. It showed Ambassador Zelthara, his delicate crystal body shaking with fear, as the humans surrounded him with small pieces of paper marked with strange symbols. They were trying to make him play something they called poker. They treated our most sacred diplomatic customs as if they were jokes, Vexthara said. They showed no respect for the ancient ways. They acted as if our suffering was amusing to them. Warsinger Thelvanner stood up, his crystal body now glowing with white-hot anger. "This cannot stand. For 3,000 years, we have kept peace through respect and understanding. These humans have shown us neither. What do you propose?" asked Consul Mordain of the Zerani, his golden feathers now standing straight up with rage. "War," said Thelvanner simply. "We must show them that the power of the Galactic Council cannot be mocked. We must teach them respect through force." The council erupted in agreement. Clicks, hisses, pulses of light, and musical tones filled the great hall. For the first time in millennia, the peaceful species of the galaxy were calling for battle. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy on Earth, Admiral Kyle Bennett sat in his office at Space Command Headquarters. The building was a simple concrete structure, nothing like the crystal palaces of the aliens. Bennett was a tough man in his 50s, with gray hair and scars from old battles against pirates and rebels. His aide, Lieutenant Amy Powell, rushed into the office carrying a data pad. She was young and eager, fresh out of the Space Academy. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the Alien Alliance," she said. It's very formal." Bennett took the pad and started reading. His eyebrows went up as he saw the message. It was written in the flowery language the aliens loved to use, full of big words and fancy phrases. "Let me see," he said out loud. "To the barbaric species known as humans, who have violated the sacred harmony of the galaxy and mocked the ancient ways of peace. We, the United Species of the Galactic Council, do hereby declare our intention to bring upon you the wrath of 1,000 suns, the fury of dying stars, and the vengeance of the cosmic order itself." Bennett stopped reading and started to chuckle. The chuckle became a laugh, and the laugh became a belly laugh that shook his whole body. "Sir?" Amy asked, confused. "Why are you laughing?" "They just declared war on us." Bennett wiped tears from his eyes. "Amy, listen to this part. We shall unleash upon you the crystalline fury of our righteous anger, the harmonic destruction of our united will, and the inevitable doom that comes to all who disturb the eternal peace of the enlightened." He looked up at her, still grinning. "It sounds like something out of a bad fantasy movie. Do they really talk like this all the time?" Amy nodded. "According to the diplomatic reports, yes, sir. They take everything very seriously." Bennett shook his head and kept reading. "Oh, this gets better. Your crude ways and barbaric customs have shown us that you are not worthy of the gift of peaceful coexistence. Therefore, we have no choice but to demonstrate the power of true civilization through the application of superior force." "Sir, shouldn't we be worried about this?" Amy asked. "They have 12 different species working together. Their technology is more advanced than ours." Bennett leaned back in his chair. "Amy, you know what this reminds me of? Remember when we were kids and we'd have those sword fights with sticks? And there was always one kid who would make up fancy names for all his moves. The blade of eternal justice, the strike of righteous thunder, that kind of thing?" "I think so, sir." "That's what this is. They're trying to sound scary and important, but they're just throwing around big words." Bennett stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the spaceport where Earth's military ships were docked. They were simple, practical vessels built for fighting, not for looking pretty. "These aliens have been at peace for 3,000 years, he said. "They probably haven't fought a real war in longer than human civilization has existed. They're used to solving problems by talking about them in fancy language." "But, sir, what if they're serious?" Amy asked. Bennett turned back to her. "Oh, they're serious. That's what makes this so funny. They really think they're going to teach us a lesson about war." He walked back to his desk and pressed a button on his communication device. "Get me General Collins, Admiral Martinez, and Colonel Stone," he said, "and send word to all fleet commanders. We need to prepare for what might be the most ridiculous war in human history." As Amy left to carry out his orders, Bennett looked back at the alien message. At the bottom, it was signed with symbols that glowed softly on the screen. He could imagine the aliens spending hours crafting each word, making sure it sounded properly threatening and important. What they didn't understand was that humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They knew what real threats looked like, and fancy words weren't one of them. Bennett smiled and opened his desk drawer. Inside was a bottle of whiskey he'd been saving for a special occasion. He poured himself a small glass and raised it toward the window, toward the stars, where the alien fleet was probably already moving. "Here's to the funniest war ever," he said, and drank. Dr. Helen Grant walked quickly through the halls of Earth Defense Command. She was a small woman with wild gray hair and thick glasses, carrying a stack of datapads under her arm. As Earth's top expert on alien life, she had been studying the Galactic Council species for 20 years. She burst into the briefing room where Admiral Bennett, General Frank Collins, and several other military leaders were gathered around a large table. The room smelled like coffee and concern. "You have to listen to me," Helen said, setting her datapads on the table. "The aliens aren't joking around. This isn't some kind of diplomatic game." General Collins, a big man with a beard, looked up from the star charts he had been studying. "Doc, we've read their message. It sounds like a bunch of fancy poetry to me." "That's exactly the problem," Helen said. She activated a holographic display that showed recordings from previous diplomatic meetings. Look at this footage from when they first contacted us 5 years ago. The display showed tall, graceful beings that seemed to be made of living crystal. They moved like dancers, and when they spoke, their voices created beautiful harmonies. Even in the recording, their presence seemed to fill the room with a sense of peace. They're not like us, Helen continued. Their entire civilization is built on something they call perfect harmony. They haven't had a war, an argument, or even a disagreement in 3,000 years. Colonel Rick Stone, a tough-looking man with short-cut hair, watched the recording. They look like they're performing some kind of dance. Are we sure they're even talking to us? That's how they communicate, Helen explained. Everything they do has meaning. The way they move, the tones they use, even how they stand. To them, communication is an art form. Admiral Bennett leaned forward. But Doc, look at how they reacted to our guys. Captain Morrison was just trying to be friendly. Helen pulled up another recording. This one showed Captain Jake Morrison, a cheerful man in his 40s, welcoming the alien ambassador to the human colony on New Centauri. Morrison had organized what he thought was a proper welcome party. The recording showed Morrison shaking the alien's delicate crystal hand, slapping him on the back and saying, "Hey there, buddy. Welcome to our little corner of space." The alien ambassador had stumbled backward, his crystal body flickering with what the humans thought was excitement, but was actually terror. You see how the ambassador's light patterns changed? Helen pointed at the screen. He wasn't happy. He was scared out of his mind. In their culture, physical contact without formal ceremony is like walking into someone's house and punching their grandmother. The military officers watched as the recording showed Morrison offering the alien a beer, turning up the music, and inviting him to join a poker game. With each friendly gesture, the alien's glow became more erratic. Captain Morrison thought he was being welcoming, Helen said. But to the alien, every action was an insult to thousands of years of tradition. General Collins stroked his beard. So what you're saying is, we accidentally offended them. Not just offended them, Helen said. We made them think we were making fun of everything they believe in. They think we're some kind of cosmic bullies who enjoy hurting others. Colonel Stone laughed. That's ridiculous. Morrison's one of the nicest guys in the fleet. He wouldn't hurt a fly. But they don't know that, Helen said. All they saw was someone treating their sacred customs like a joke. Admiral Bennett stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see workers loading supplies onto military transport ships. Earth's war machine was slowly waking up after years of peace. Doc, let me ask you something, Bennett said. If they're so peaceful, how dangerous can they really be? Helen pulled up a new display. This one showed technical specifications of alien technology. They may be peaceful, but they're not helpless. Their crystal ships can focus starlight into weapons that can cut through our best armor. Their biomechanical allies, the Karafi, have weapons that can turn our own ships against us. And the Luminari can overload our electronics just by flying nearby. The room fell quiet as the officers studied the technical data. The alien weapons were definitely more advanced than anything Earth had. But here's the thing, Helen continued. They've never used these weapons in anger. They've never fought a war. They have no idea what real combat is like. General Collins looked up from the data. What do you mean? Think about it, Helen said. They've kept peace for 3,000 years through diplomacy and ceremony. They'd probably think war is like a formal debate with weapons. They have no idea what happens when humans get creative in a fight. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the alien fleet was gathering at a place called the Nexus of Eternal Harmony. Hundreds of ships from 12 different species floated in perfect formation around a massive space station made of living crystal. War singer Thelvanr stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Harmony of Ages. His crystal body pulsed with controlled energy as he watched the other ships take their positions. Each vessel was a work of art, designed to be beautiful, as well as functional. The Korathi ships looked like giant metal insects with weapons that shifted and changed shape. The Luminari vessels were balls of contained starlight that left trails of rainbow colors. The Zerani flew in formations that looked like flocks of golden birds. "All ships report ready for combat," announced his communications officer, a delicate being whose voice sounded like wind chimes. Thelvanr nodded slowly. "Begin the ceremony of righteous war," he said. Across the fleet, the aliens began their ancient ritual. They had not performed this ceremony in 3,000 years, but they remembered every word, every movement, every note of the sacred songs. The crystal ships began to glow brighter. The metal ships of the Korathi rang like bells. The light ships of the Luminari pulsed in perfect rhythm. Together, they created a symphony that could be heard across space itself. Back on Earth, Captain Nick Palmer was monitoring alien communications from Defense Station Omega 7. His station floated at the edge of the solar system. Serving as Earth's early warning system, Palmer was a calm, steady man who had spent 15 years listening to radio signals from across the galaxy. He thought he had heard everything, but the sounds coming from the alien fleet were unlike anything in his experience. "Lieutenant Foster," he called to his communications officer, "are you picking up these alien transmissions?" Lieutenant Karen Foster, a young woman with bright red hair, looked up from her console. "Yes, sir. It's some kind of music, but it's really weird. It sounds like a funeral mixed with an opera." Palmer listened to the alien songs. They were beautiful, but also sad, full of regret and determination. "I think they're performing some kind of ceremony before they attack." Karen adjusted her controls. "Sir, they're broadcasting on every frequency. It's like they want the whole galaxy to hear this." Palmer thought for a moment. The aliens were clearly taking this very seriously. Maybe Earth should respond with its own pre-battle ceremony. "Karen, open a channel on all frequencies," he said. "Yes, sir." "You're broadcasting to the entire alien fleet." Palmer thought about what would be appropriate. Earth didn't have ancient war songs like the aliens, but they had something else. He reached over and activated his personal music player. The opening chords of Thunderstruck by AC/DC blasted across space at maximum volume. Aboard the alien flagship, the communications officer suddenly jerked backward as the human music hit their receivers. The harsh guitars and pounding drums were like nothing they had ever heard. "What is that noise?" Thelvanr asked, his crystal body flickering with confusion. "It appears to be the humans' war ceremony," the communications officer replied, trying to filter the signal through their harmonic analyzers. "But sir, it's so aggressive, so chaotic." The alien fleet listened in horror as the human music continued. To their ears, trained on perfect harmony and gentle melodies, rock music sounded like the screaming of tortured metal. "They're not even singing words," another officer observed. "It's just noise and violence." Thelvanr's glow dimmed with worry. What kind of species made war music that sounded like destruction itself? What kind of beings found harmony in chaos? "Continue our approach," he ordered, "but be prepared for anything. These humans are clearly not like any species we have encountered before." Back on Palmer's station, Karen was laughing as she listened to the alien response. "Sir, they're trying to analyze our music. Their computers can't figure out what AC/DC is supposed to mean." Palmer grinned. "Let's give them something else to think about." He switched to a different song. Soon the opening notes of "Born to be Wild" were echoing across space. The alien fleet still performing their solemn war ceremony, was now completely confused. The humans seemed to be responding to their sacred ritual with what sounded like mechanical screaming set to a rhythm that made no mathematical sense. On Earth, recruitment offices were seeing something unprecedented. Instead of being afraid of the coming war, people were lining up to join the military. The recruitment posters showed pictures of the elegant alien ships with slogans like, "See the galaxy's most traumatic neighbors," and "Space Force," where every day is an adventure. Sergeant Betty Hughes, running the recruitment office in New York, couldn't believe what she was seeing. "I've been doing this job for 10 years, she told her assistant. "I've never seen people, T." The first battle began at 0800 hours, Earth Standard Time, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Commander Steve Martinez led 3 human destroyers against what looked like a floating crystal palace the size of Manhattan. Martinez was a veteran of the corporate wars, a short man with steady hands and quick reflexes. He stood on the bridge of his ship, the Iron Wolf, watching the alien vessel approach through the view screen. "That thing is beautiful," said his weapons officer, Lieutenant Tony Garcia. "Look how it catches the sunlight." The Zephyrian crystal ship did look magnificent. Its surface sparkled with 1,000 colors, and it moved through space like a dancer, graceful and smooth. But Martinez knew that beauty could be deadly. "Don't let the pretty lights fool you," he told his crew. "That ship probably has enough firepower to crack a planet." The alien ship stopped about 50 miles away and began to glow brighter. A voice came over the communication system, speaking in the musical tones the Zephyrians used. "Primitive humans," the voice said, "you have one opportunity to surrender with honor. Acknowledge the superiority of the Galactic Council and submit to our judgment." Martinez looked around at his crew. They were all grinning. His navigator, Ensign Lisa Park, was actually trying not to laugh. "Sir," she whispered, "did they just call us primitive?" Martinez keyed his microphone. "Crystal Ship, this is Commander Martinez of the Earth Defense Force. We respectfully decline your generous offer. Also, nice ship. Did you get it at the fancy space mall?" There was a long pause. Then the alien voice came back, sounding confused. "We do not understand your reference to a space mall. This vessel is a sacred instrument of war, blessed by the eternal harmony itself." "Right," Martinez said. "Well, our ships were blessed by the god of duct tape and stubbornness. Let's see which blessing works better." The alien ship's glow suddenly became blindingly bright. A beam of pure light shot out, hitting an asteroid nearby. The space rock, which had been floating there for millions of years, simply ceased to exist. "Okay," Martinez said calmly. "That's definitely not good. All ships, evasive action. Let's show them how humans dance." The 3 human destroyers scattered in different directions, their engines roaring at full power. They moved in sharp, unpredictable patterns that would have made any sane pilot sick to his stomach. The crystal ship tried to follow, but its movements were too graceful, too predictable. It was like watching a ballet dancer try to catch 3 angry hornets. "Fire everything, Weave." "Got," Martinez ordered. The human ships opened up with railguns, nuclear torpedoes, and plasma cannons. The crystal ship's shields flared as the weapons hit, but they held. "Their shields are strong," Garcia reported. "But look at how they're moving. They're trying to stay pretty while they fight." Martinez watched the alien ship turn in a slow, elegant spiral to face them again. "You're right. They fight like they're performing for an audience." Meanwhile, in the asteroid field, pilot Jenny Carter was having the time of her life. She flew a small interceptor called Lucky Strike, darting between crystal shards that the alien ship was throwing at her like deadly confetti. "Woohoo!" she shouted over the radio. "This is better than the roller coaster at Luna Park." Her wingman, Lieutenant Bobby Jackson, was right beside her in his fighter Rebel Yell. "Jenny, are you seriously enjoying this?" he asked as a crystal, shard the size of a bus, whistled past his cockpit. "Are you kidding? When are we ever going to get another chance to fight giant space crystals?" Jenny rolled her fighter upside down and flew between two asteroids. "It's like being in a video game." The alien war singer Thelvanur watched the battle from his flagship, which was still several hours away from the fighting. His crystal body flickered with confusion as he listened to the reports from his advance ship. "The humans are not fighting properly," his tactical officer reported. "They show no formation, no discipline, no respect for the art of war." "What do you mean?" Thelvanur asked. "They move randomly, sir, like insects. And they are making noise during combat." Thelvanur listened to the intercepted human radio chatter. The voices were full of excitement, not fear. They were laughing, joking, and making references he didn't understand. "This is impossible," he said. "No species can maintain such joy during mortal combat." Back in the asteroid belt, the battle was getting more intense. The crystal ship had called for help, and two more alien vessels were approaching. These were Karathi ships, looking like giant metal spiders with weapons that shifted and changed shape. "Commander, Martinez saw them coming on his sensors." "Well, boys and girls, looks like the party is getting bigger. All ships form up on me." The three human destroyers moved into a loose triangle formation. It wasn't the tight, perfect formation that military textbooks recommended, but it gave each ship room to move and shoot. The first Karathi ship opened fire with what looked like liquid metal. The substance flew through space like a silver snake, trying to wrap around the human ships. "What the hell is that?" Garcia asked. "Looks like space silly putty," Martinez replied. "Don't let it touch us. I have a feeling it's not as fun as it looks." Lieutenant Jackson, still flying his fighter nearby, had a different problem. The second Karathi ship was shooting at him with weapons that looked like metal tentacles. "This is getting weird," he said over the radio. "The space spiders are trying to grab me with their tentacles." "Bobby, that's the strangest sentence I've ever heard in combat," Jenny replied, still weaving between crystal attacks. "But I think I can top it. The crystal ship is shooting rainbows at me." She was right. The Zephyrian ship had switched to a different weapon that fired beams of multicolored light. They were beautiful but deadly, turning anything they touched into glittering dust. "Rainbow death beams," Martinez said. "I'm definitely putting that in my report." The battle continued for another hour. The humans couldn't break through the alien shields, but the aliens couldn't seem to hit the fast-moving human ships. It was like watching a fight between a sledgehammer and a swarm of bees. Finally, war singer Thelvanur decided to contact the human commander directly. His image appeared on the view screen of the Iron Wolf, a tall, graceful being made of living crystal, glowing with inner light. "Human commander," Thelvanur said in his musical voice, "I do not understand your tactics. Why do you show no fear of death?" Martinez looked at the alien leader. Up close, he could see that Thelvanur was genuinely confused, maybe even worried. "Well," Martinez said, "I guess it's because we've been dying stupidly for thousands of years. We've gotten pretty good at it." "That makes no sense," Thelvanur replied. "Death is the end of harmony, the ultimate failure. How can you treat it so casually?" Martinez thought about it. "Look, your crystalness, humans have a saying, nobody gets out of life alive. We're all going to die eventually, so we might as well have some fun while we're here." "Fun?" Thelvanur's glow dimmed. "You consider warfare to be entertainment?" "Not exactly," Martinez said. "But when someone threatens our friends and family, we tend to get creative about fighting back. And creativity can be pretty entertaining." To demonstrate his point, Martinez ordered his ship to fire a spread of nuclear torpedoes. Not at the alien ships, but at a large asteroid. The explosion lit up space like a small sun and sent chunks of rock flying in all directions. "Now watch this," Martinez said. As the crystal ship tried to dodge the flying debris, Martinez's other two destroyers came at it from different angles, forcing it to choose between taking damage or breaking its perfect formation. The alien ship chose to break formation, and for the first time in the battle, it moved in a way that wasn't graceful. It twisted and rolled like any normal ship trying to avoid getting hit. "You see?" Martinez said. "We fight dirty. We use tricks. We do whatever works, even if it's not pretty." Thelvanar was quiet for a long moment. "Your methods are disturbing," he finally said. "You turn order into chaos." "Chaos works," Martinez replied. "Ask any human who's ever been in a bar fight." "What is a bar fight?" Thelvanar asked. Martinez grinned. "Never mind. You probably don't want to know." The battle ended when both sides ran low on ammunition and energy. The alien ships retreated to regroup, while the human ships limped back toward Mars for repairs. As the crystal ships disappeared into hyperspace, Jenny Carter's voice came over the radio. "Commander, that was the most fun I've had since flight school. When do we get to do it again?" Martinez shook his head. "The aliens wanted to teach humans about proper warfare, but they had no idea what they were dealing with. Humans had been fighting improper wars since they discovered fire. This was going to be interesting." Captain Pete Rogers, commanding the destroyer Hard Luck, had taken damage to his engines during the fight. As the alien ships prepared to jump away, he made a decision that would become legendary in human military history. "All power to engines," he ordered his crew. "We're going to ram that crystal ship." "Sir," his first officer said, "that's suicide." "Maybe," Rogers replied, "but it'll be memorable." The Hard Luck accelerated toward the largest crystal ship, which was moving slowly as it prepared to jump to hyperspace. Rogers got on the ship-wide intercom. "This is the captain," he announced. "We're about to do something incredibly stupid and dangerous. If anyone wants to object, you have about 30 seconds. No one objected. The crew of the Hard Luck had. Dr. Helen Grant stood in the middle of the captured alien technology lab, surrounded by pieces of crystal and metal that had once been part of enemy ships. The battle in the asteroid belt had given Earth its first chance to study galactic council weapons up close. She picked up a fragment of Zephyrian crystal that still glowed with inner light. Even broken, it was beautiful, like a piece of trapped starlight. But Helen wasn't interested in its beauty. She wanted to understand how it worked. "Computer, run analysis on sample ZC-47, she said. The lab's artificial intelligence began scanning the crystal with every instrument available. Analysis complete. The crystal contains organic compounds similar to neural tissue. It appears to be a living computer." Helen frowned. "Living computer? You mean this ship was alive?" "Affirmative. The entire vessel appears to have been grown rather than built. It shows signs of biological processes, including what might be considered emotions. This changed everything." Helen had assumed the aliens used advanced technology, like humans did, tools and machines they had created. But if their ships were actually living beings, then the ramming attack by Captain Rogers hadn't just destroyed a vessel. It had killed a creature. She called Admiral Bennett immediately. "Admiral, we need to talk," she said when his face appeared on the communication screen. "The alien ships aren't just ships. They're alive." Bennett was in his office, looking tired after 3 days of continuous battle planning. "What do you mean, alive?" "I mean they're living creatures, sir. The crystal ships are grown, not built. They have something like nervous systems. When Captain Rogers rammed that ship, he didn't just blow up a machine. He killed a living being." Bennett was quiet for a moment. Doc, are you telling me we're fighting animals? Not exactly animals, but yes, in a way. And sir, that's not the worst part. I've been studying their communication patterns, and I think I know why they're so upset with us. Helen sent her data to Bennett's computer. Look at these brain scans of the captured alien prisoners. See these neural pathways? They're completely different from human brains. The scans showed alien minds that were organized in perfect symmetrical patterns. There were no chaotic areas, no random connections, no signs of the messy thinking that characterized human consciousness. They're not capable of understanding sarcasm, irony, or humor, Helen explained. Their brains literally cannot process the idea that someone might say one thing but mean something else. Bennett studied the scans. So when our people were joking around during the diplomatic meetings, the aliens thought we were being completely serious about everything, Helen finished. When Captain Norrison offered their ambassador a beer and called him buddy, they thought he was performing some kind of dominance ritual. When he challenged them to poker, they thought he was threatening them with a combat game. Dear God, Bennett said, no wonder they declared war. It gets worse. Sir, I've been analyzing their historical records. They've been at peace for 3,000 years because their entire species evolved past the ability to lie, cheat, or be mean to each other. They literally cannot understand why anyone would want to hurt someone else. Bennett rubbed his forehead. So they think we're some kind of monsters. Exactly. And that's why they're so determined to stop us. In their minds, we're a species of sadistic bullies who enjoy causing pain and chaos. While Helen was making her discoveries, the war was escalating across the galaxy. The aliens had decided that the human threat was too dangerous to handle with conventional tactics. They were preparing to use their ultimate weapon. War singer Thelvanur stood in the heart of the Harmony Disruptor, a massive device that looked like a crystalline flower the size of a small moon. The weapon had been built during the early days of the Galactic Council, designed to end wars by removing the ability to fight. Are you certain about this? Asked High Chancellor Vexthara, her watery form shimmering with concern. The Harmony Disruptor has never been used on a living species. The humans have left us no choice, Thelvanur replied. They respond to violence with laughter. They treat death as entertainment. They are a chaos infection that will spread across the galaxy if we do not stop them. The Harmony Disruptor worked by synchronizing the brain patterns of an entire species, forcing them into perfect mental harmony. Any group hit by the weapon would lose the ability to fight, argue, or even disagree with each other. They would become peaceful whether they wanted to or not. Target the human colony of New Texas, Thelvanur ordered. It has 50,000 inhabitants. We will demonstrate the power of enforced peace. The weapon charged up slowly, drawing energy from 3 nearby stars. The crystal flower opened its petals, revealing a core of pure light that hurt to look at directly. On New Texas, Governor Danny Murphy was having coffee with his wife Sarah when the sky began to glow. Danny was a big, cheerful man who The final battle began at dawn on Earth Standard Time. Admiral Kyle Bennett stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiant, watching as hundreds of alien ships dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's moon. The entire Galactic Council fleet had come to end the human threat once and for all. Sir, reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Alex Parker, I count over 800 enemy ships. They've brought everything they have. Bennett nodded grimly. Earth's fleet numbered only 200 ships, and most of those were damaged from previous battles. By any reasonable measure, humanity was about to lose badly. All ships, this is Admiral Bennett, he announced over the fleet communication channel. Today, we fight for our right to exist as we are. The aliens want to change us or destroy us. We're going to show them why that's a bad idea." Across the fleet, human crews prepared for battle. They weren't singing war songs or performing sacred ceremonies like the aliens. Instead, they were checking their weapons, sharing jokes, and getting ready to improvise their way through the biggest fight in human history. On the alien flagship Eternal Harmony, war singer Thelvanor prepared for what he hoped would be this final battle. His crystal body pulsed with determination as he addressed his commanders. "Today, we end the chaos infection," he declared. "The humans have proven they cannot be reasoned with, cannot be pacified, and cannot be allowed to spread their destructive influence across the galaxy." High Chancellor Vix Thara, her liquid form shimmering with worry, stood beside him. "Are you certain this is the only way?" she asked. "Perhaps we could find some other solution." "There is no other solution," Thelvanor replied. "They turn every gift into a weapon, every piece offering into a joke. They are the chaos bringers of prophecy, and they must be stopped." The battle began with the aliens' most devastating attack. Every ship in their fleet fired at once, creating a wall of energy. Weapons that lit up space like a second sun. The human fleet scattered in all directions, using asteroids, space debris, and even pieces of their own destroyed ships as cover. But Admiral Bennett had a plan that the aliens couldn't predict, because it made no tactical sense whatsoever. "All ships execute Operation Punchline," he ordered. Across the human fleet, communication officers began broadcasting every piece of human entertainment they could find. Comedy shows, action movies, sports highlights, music videos, and viral internet clips streamed toward the alien ships on every frequency. The aliens, expecting another chaotic human attack, instead found themselves watching humans doing ridiculous things for no apparent reason. They saw people falling down stairs and laughing about it. They watched humans jumping off high places with pieces of cloth attached to their backs. They observed elaborate competitions where the only goal seemed to be hitting a small ball with sticks. "What is this?" Thelvanor demanded as his communication screens filled with images of humans doing impossible stunts, telling jokes, and generally acting like they had no concern for their own safety. "It appears to be their cultural database, his communications," officer reported. "But sir, I don't understand any of it. They seem to celebrate danger and find humor in failure." On the human ship, Lucky Break, Colonel Martha Webb was coordinating the broadcast. She was a former entertainment industry executive who had joined the military when the war started. She understood something about humans that the aliens didn't. "Keep sending everything," she told her team. "Show them cartoons, show them comedy specials, show them every stupid human trick video we have. Make them understand what they're really fighting." The aliens watched in growing horror as the human broadcasts continued. They saw humans laughing at their own mistakes, helping each other in disasters while making jokes, and turning every tragedy into an opportunity for growth and humor. One video showed humans during a natural disaster on Earth. Instead of panicking, they were working together to save their neighbors while cracking jokes about the situation. When their houses were destroyed, they laughed and said they would build better ones. When they were hurt, they made jokes about their injuries and kept helping others. "This is impossible," Morthala, the science officer, whispered. "How can they find joy in suffering?" Thelvanor was beginning to understand something terrible. The humans weren't laughing because they were cruel. They were laughing because that's how they survived in a universe that was constantly trying to kill them. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Every human joke was a small victory against fear, pain, and death. Every act of humor was an act of defiance against the chaos of existence. "They're not the chaos bringers," he said quietly. "They're the chaos survivors." The battle continued, but something had changed. The aliens were no longer fighting with the righteous fury of beings protecting cosmic order. They were fighting beings who had learned to find hope and joy in the darkest circumstances. Captain Sharon Price, commanding. The destroyer Stand Up decided to try something that had never been attempted in the history of warfare. She opened a direct communication channel too. Felvenor's flagship. Sharon had been a professional comedian before joining the military. She understood humor better than almost anyone in the human fleet. "War singer Felvenor," she said when the alien leader's image appeared on her screen. "My name is Captain Sharon Price. I used to tell jokes for a living." Felvenor's crystal form flickered with confusion. "You ... made humor your profession?" "That's right. And I want to explain something to you about humans that you might not understand." Sharon looked around her bridge. Her crew was still fighting the battle, but they were also listening to what their captain was saying. "You think we're cruel because we laugh at serious things," Sharon continued. "But you've got it backwards. We don't laugh because we don't care. We laugh because we care too much." "I do not understand," Felvenor said. "Let me tell you a story," Sharon said. "A long time ago on Earth, there was a man who lived through one of our most terrible wars. He lost his family, his home, everything. He had, but he survived, and later he said something that became famous among humans." "What did he say?" "He said that everything can be taken from a person except one thing: the freedom to choose your attitude in any circumstances. Humans learned a long time ago that you can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you react to it." Felvenor listened as Sharon explained how humans used humor to cope with tragedy, how they found strength in laughter, and how their jokes were actually a form of courage. "When we make fun of danger, we're not being disrespectful," Sharon said. "We're refusing to let fear control us. When we laugh at our mistakes, we're showing that we can learn and grow. When we joke about death, we're proving that we're more than just meat and bones. We're spirits that can't be broken." The alien leader was quiet for a long time. Around them, the battle continued, but many of the alien ships had stopped firing as their crews listened to the conversation. "You laugh to show that you are not defeated," Felvenor said slowly. "Exactly," Sharon replied. "We laugh because the alternative is despair, and despair doesn't help anyone." High Chancellor Vixthara, who had been listening from the alien flagship, suddenly understood. "They are not mocking our pain," she said. "They are showing us how to survive it." The fighting gradually stopped as word of the conversation spread through both fleets. For the first time since the war began, humans and aliens were actually communicating instead of shooting at each other. Captain Price, seeing an opportunity, made a proposal that would become legend in diplomatic history. "War singer Felvenor," she said, "would you be willing to watch something with me? It's a human performance art called stand-up comedy. I think it might help you understand us better." Felvenor agreed, and soon every ship in both fleets was watching as Captain Price performed a comedy routine via subspace transmission. She told jokes about the absurdity of war, the confusion of first contact, and the ridiculous misunderstandings that had led to the current situation. She even made jokes about the aliens themselves, but they were gentle jokes that pointed out the humor in the situation without being mean or cruel. For the first time in 3,000 years, the species of the Galactic Council experienced something new. They laughed not. It wasn't the musical harmony they were used to. It was messy, chaotic, and completely unpredictable. But it felt good in a way they had never experienced before. "This is extraordinary," Felvenor said as the performance ended. "I feel ... lighter, as if a burden has been lifted." "That's what laughter does," Sharon explained. "It doesn't solve problems, but it gives you the strength to solve them yourself." The war ended not with a great battle, but with a treaty signed on a neutral space station, while both sides were still chuckling about the absurdity of the whole situation. The negotiations were handled by Admiral Bennett and President Lucy Reynolds on the human side, and by Thelvanor and Vexthara for the aliens. "We propose the following terms," Bennett said during the first official negotiation session. "Humans will respect alien territorial boundaries and sacred sites. In exchange, aliens will recognize human colonies already established and grant use trading rights." "Acceptable," Thelvanor agreed. "But we have one additional request." "What's that?" President Reynolds asked. "We would like to establish a cultural exchange."